Hi everybody, welcome back and welcome to a new year, 2026. I'm Benita Hudson, your psychic coach, here to bring you my January forecast. And do check my site. I use a deck called the Osho Zen Tarot to do a one-year reading. So I did that live on Facebook this morning and I will be posting it to my YouTube channel. So you should be seeing that up as well. All right, let's do the die. Get ready. And the card that I pulled is the Maiden of Winter, which makes sense for January. And the Maiden of Winter is about contemplation, about looking at the things about ourselves that we need to work on, that we need to change, being really honest with ourselves. And you'll see from the forecast I did, which was a month by month for the year, that January is a month of placing intention for the coming year. So this makes perfect sense in terms of setting that same theme for the month of January itself. So that taking that time just to sit very still, sit with yourself, check in. And when we place intention effectively, we're not just going, I think I'll do this. We're asking internally, what is it my path to do? What do I need to know to walk my path this year? And let our soul speak to us, allow ourselves to connect with that deeper intention. All right? Let's get to month of January. Okay, most everything stayed on the mat and one sat in the core. So that's always interesting. And things are pretty evenly spread out. So I always like to start with the chaos die because quite often the chaos die suggests something else will have to change on the mat. So we are going to see exactly how that wants to play out. And the image that comes up for the chaos die is the dumpster fire. So we see that sitting right here, a little dumpster fire in the past. So that's important to know. When dumpsters are on fire, you know something apocalyptic is happening, or it's just a Tuesday, hard to say, when the dumpster fire comes to play. I quite like the way Seven writes this material. Seven is the artist who brought a lot of artists together to create the publishing Goblin Oracle dice. So it says the die nearest this die shouldn't be touched or interacted with. It's burning, and if you go near it, interact with it, or try to change it, you'll get burnt. You were warned. So the die closest to it is this one. We're going to see how that plays out as we go. But bear that in mind as we continue here. We're also going to look up the fate die next, because the fate die will sometimes tell us to move things on the mat. So we definitely want to see how that one plays out. And the fate die is the ace showing up in the future. And it says it's that perfect thing you need. It's the perfect thing you need at just the right moment. It's taking risk and finding just the tool you need at hand to get by. So if it comes up in a reading, it's exactly what was needed in your hand when you need it. Take the risk you wanted to take. You can take the leap. You'll find the rope to grab on the way. So that's a real encouragement in the future, that if we work on the intention for the month, and remember how the universe works. Everything is a manifestation of consciousness. So once we place intent, because the universe by law must reflect externally any internal change, if you're doing the work and you're making the internal changes to work with the intent you placed, it's going to put in front of you the resources to fulfill that intent. So that's what that dice is basically saying. The resources will be there if you do the work. Remember, this isn't carved in stone. This is possibility based on what you do with it. It's showing you how to best harness the possibilities of this month. All right, we will go back to the beginning and we will look at the die that came before that. So our actions die is showing up under fated, and it's this little dude. It might be hard to see, who's got a sword going through him. So that's under fated, and it's basically sacrifice. So it speaks to giving something up that we don't want to, typically for the better. So under fated, and this makes a lot of sense if you think about it, when you place intention, you're giving up complacency. You're giving up victimhood. You're giving up staying comfortable. Once we place intent, if we're really doing the work, we're saying, I'm intending for this, and I'm prepared to do the work to bring that to fruition. The universe can set up the circumstances to help us fulfill that intent, but it can't do the work for us. When those opportunities present themselves, we have to step into them, whether it's facing an internal pattern of resistance or fear that we didn't want to look at, or whether it's taking that new job or making that move or asking that person out. We have to step out of our comfort zone. We have to do the work for this to work. So sacrifice can be the sacrifice of the known, of the comfortable, of the limited, to step out of the swimming pool into the ocean, to step into boundlessness. Okay. And our next die, the Alchemist die, is showing up under history. Let's have a look at that one. And it is lead. So lead in this reading is difficult, untouchable, or even dangerous, but know that with time, patience, and work, it can be made into something useful to you. So given the way this reading is going, here's how I read that. A lot of our subconscious patterns are destructive because they're not awakened yet. When we have reactions to things, we go, oh my God, why did I say that? Why did I do that? It's the unconscious patterns at work. So we can either say, well, I need to get rid of that. And I see a lot of that. I see a lot of people say, how do I stop doing this? How do I get rid of this? And I always say, every part of you is absolutely necessary to your journey. The parts that are scared, sad, angry, ashamed, they all contain some of your wisdom when they become conscious. You don't want to lose any part of yourself. It's like saying, well, here's this little kid who's gone through a lot, and he's not happy, and he's really struggling. Let's just get rid of him. No, he needs to be supported to become conscious and cared for, and then start to care back. And he can't do that if he's not cared for first. So that's how I take that. It's saying you're going to have to face those patterns that hobble you in life and keep you from fulfilling the intention of this year. And I noticed in the spread for the year, there's a lot of internal work being done. So again, everything is being quite mirrored so far in everything that I'm seeing. And our alley die is showing up right here under fated. Interesting, because I believe we had this one last month under future. And this one is the alley itself. And it's saying that there's a universal experience here. So in other words, it's saying universally there are sacrifices to be made. There's a need to place intention this year. We can't float. We are all going to have to do some work on ourselves, and so just expect that. But then also realize it means you're not alone. You're in good company. We all need to go, okay, what's my intention for this year? What do I want to work on? How do I want to do that? And if you know that a lot of people who, are watching my videos and working with me in person, they're all doing this work too. You're not alone. We're all in this together. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Knowing that there's a whole world of people wanting to awaken, wanting to live a gentler, maybe a more peaceful life because they're more at peace with themselves. If we're at war with ourselves, if we have parts coming up going, hey, I have all these feelings, and we're like, don't want to know about those feelings, we can't ever feel peaceful, and we can't create peace in the world. So it's really important that we do this work because that's why we're on the planet. We want a peaceful world. It starts within us. So the next one we have here is the attentions die. And the attentions die is sitting in the present. And it shows a door that's ajar. And it's called closets. And it says closets are the things in your life you can't let anyone know about, but that you also know someday have to come out and be known. So it's saying in the present time, the things you have suppressed about yourself, the things you maybe didn't want to show others, didn't even want to look at yourself, this is the time to do that. When you think about it, if you place intention, if there was no part of you that you needed to work on, that you needed to be brave enough to show the world, vulnerable enough to ask for help, or to speak about your dreams to the kind of people that could support them, you'd already have done that. If you had, in other words, if you wouldn't need to place those intentions if you'd already done that work. If you're needing to place those intentions now, it means there's something in you that's kept you up until now from doing that. Whatever it is that makes you hesitate to say, I need some support, or I'm excited to try this, or this is my dream. Anything that keeps you from speaking that, that's the work that needs to be done. So that those parts of you, through you working with them, build the confidence to participate in taking action and voicing things and putting it out there into the world and being seen. Again, this is my forte, is helping people to connect with the parts that are struggling, that think it's safer to be invisible, or whatever the core patterns are, and help you to support them to consciousness. All right, the autumn die. Okay, so the autumn die is the one that we were warned by the chaos die is dumpster fire and avoid it. So let's see what that's bringing up. Interesting, it's change. It says change is, as its name implies, the element of transformation, where the transformation phase of the action dice is much more aligned with personal change. The change phase is broader and can mean transformation of jobs, relationships, literal physical change, going from rich to poor, or anything else. So this is about external change. The way I'm picking up on that is don't let your core patterns dictate change for you. In other words, say you're in a bad relationship. If you come out of that relationship and say, I'm moving on, I'm not dealing with this anymore, but you don't work on the core patterns that got you in that relationship in the first place, I guarantee you will repeat the pattern. You can tell yourself you won't, but because the pattern isn't conscious and you're not fully aware of what it's doing, you don't know that under the surface, it's the one drawing you to the same kind of person who didn't look like that person when you first met them. It's the one causing you to react the way you always said you would never do again, because it's a very powerful part of you. When you think about it, you're driving a car, and your mind is taking in so much information while you're driving. The people around you, what the other vehicles are doing, where you need to turn. At that time, you're just driving your car. You're not thinking about how do I breathe and am I watching every single thing. There's a lot of subconscious behavior going on that allow you just to drive the car and get where you gotta go. If you had to think about absolutely everything operating in your body and in you at that moment as a conscious thought, you'd not be able to do anything. So it's saying any changes coming up for you, don't let your core patterns dictate how you respond. If you have a strong emotional reaction to a situation, sit with it. Never act out of fear or fear of not taking action. Be willing to take your time and sit with something. Remember, this is a month of meditation. Be willing to sit with something. What's it bringing up for me? What's the pattern that's being triggered? What do I need to do to support that pattern to consciousness? So that when you go to make the decision or to respond to the situation, it comes from a place of knowingness. You feel settled, you feel calm, you feel clear. And a lot of us don't give ourselves the time to get there. We try to bypass all the emotions and we use rationalization. I should be okay with this because if I was a good friend, I would do this. We don't check in and say, but what is my intuition telling me I actually need to do, if anything, about this situation? So this is really key. Don't just react. Sit with the reaction that wants to come up. Sit with the feelings. Don't suppress them. Let them come up. But just within you and observe them. And then don't make a move until you've worked through that emotional material and there's clarity. And that doesn't happen if you push those feelings down and say, nope, I'm not going to have those feelings. You're not playing with a full deck if you're only working with some of the cards. And some of the other cards are the unconscious patterns. When you let them come up and you work with them and you start to integrate them, you're playing with a fuller deck because they have some of your wisdom too. All right. That's our autumn die. We've done the chaos die. The elements die is showing up right up at the top here in the beyond, and it's kind of the beyond the fated. So it's sort of included in that area. And this one is wind. So it characterizes nearby dice as fleeting, coming, going, or arriving suddenly and leaving almost as suddenly. So in terms of where it's sitting at this point, I don't think it has a strong influence on the die sitting in fated because it's just outside of it. But it softens those. So the sacrifice you have to make, again, doesn't necessarily mean some big, I'm going to lose something major, which is why my sense of it was it's more the sacrifice of comfort, of complacency, having to push ourselves. So it doesn't feel really harsh this month. It feels softer. In fact, the whole year feels softer. And again, if you watch the one, the 1 year forecast, you'll see that. It's more internal. And in fact, the more we do the work internally, the less chaos the universe has to present to us externally to get us to do the work. So this is softer. I'm liking this. I'm encouraged by this. I think right now with some of the things going on in the world, we could use a little softness. Our Goblin die is showing up under inevitable, and I'm a little tickled pink about this one. It's a little goblin who's got inspiration happening. So it says inspiration is inevitable. It speaks of outside forces coming to act before and within you. It's a spark of creation, coming to realize a new way forward. Oh, so I love this. So much of what we're getting here this year is place the intention, do the work. The universe is going to show up with the resources you need, and there's going to be inspiration so you can move forward. And it's really reflective of the 1 year reading I did. So I'm quite happy to see just how it all ties in. These things are always really interesting. So with the influences die, it's under present. And we have, it's called arcane. And it says it's the thing that's unknown but hovering and touching and permeating. It can be magic, energy shifts, as much as it can be bureaucratic ritual and insurmountable text. Arcane is that esoteric thing we do not understand, but that we understand has great power in the situation, even if we do not understand how or why. So it is saying that in the present, there's a lot of power here. Think about it. We have here the closet one. That's about, I'm going to have to start being vulnerable, visible, show parts of myself I've never shown anybody. But why do we suppress those parts? Because they're powerful. Because we worry that we might not have control of them if we let them out of the closet. We can't control for how other people are going to react to those parts of ourselves. And if we've been taught to see those parts as somehow negative or lacking, then we don't want to show them to anybody, because what if they see it that way too? Yet we'll never know if those are maybe some of the most beautiful, powerful parts of ourselves if we never let the world see them. And if we never let them out to play and create, and cry and rage and do the things they need to do so that they can wake up and become a constructive part of ourselves. And when you think about it, if growing up you were taught to see some part of yourself as negative, people who've been wounded wound the next generation. So why would you trust their perspective on what makes you valuable in the world? Why not take a chance? And with discernment, with the right people who've been loving and supportive in your life, let those parts up. See what happens. What if all this time some of the most creative, amazing, playful parts of you, creative parts of you, could have been out there doing really cool things in the world if they'd just been given a chance? And if you give them a chance, remember, the universe reflects our inner reality. If you start to believe in them, so will the people around you, and the ones who won't, you will deal with differently, or they just won't be a part of your story anymore. Because when that expansion occurs, it's going to move out of your life anything that wants to contain it in a way that is disrespectful, right? There's always a time and place for things, but how many things within you, how many aspects of you have never been given a time or a place? They're just kept inside. What could the end of this year look like if in January you start thinking about the ways you've held yourself back and what you want to dare to bring forward, and what the end of the year could look like as a result? Exciting. So next to the sacrifice one, we have a rubber ball. And it's the need for youth, simplicity, and play. Remember, I said softness? So when I'm looking at this, and because it's next to sacrifice, it's saying this isn't going to be harsh. This is going to be like, oh man, yeah, I got to do that work. Okay. It's not going to be a harsh and grinding experience. It's just going to be like, okay, I can bounce back from this. I can do this thing that I need to do. I can step into my discomfort. The next dice is sitting on the edge here. It looks like that. And this is the longings die. And this one is movement. It establishes a dramatic need to stop being in one spot. So it's interesting because along the edge of this mat, it says momentum to inevitable. So it's saying that what's coming up here in the future, because this is the future section, is going to have momentum, movement to move forward. It's going to naturally lead to, you can't see this because it's off camera, under inevitable inspiration. So there's a lot of beautiful movement here that if you place your intention and the universe starts to show you things and you work with them, you're going to feel, I can do this. I can move towards this. I can feel that this is what's meant to happen now. And there's resources for that. Things are always set up for our success. It's just, we often don't want to do the hard work to get there. We don't want to do the emotional work. We don't want to sit with ourselves and say, what is it about me I've been ignoring and not wanting to look at? What are the emotions I haven't wanted to face? When we're willing to do that work and then step into the opportunities externally the universe creates, amazing things can happen. Our majors die is sitting right here in the past. It's like two little figures reaching for each other, but it's called loss. And it's just the part where something goes away forever and cannot be gotten back. Remember, it's sitting in the past, and I'll look at triangles. So we have dumpster fire, change, loss, saying don't touch this. Don't let your experiences of loss influence you either. Oftentimes when we are attached to things, I want this way, I want this experience, and I don't want it to change. We will grasp at things. We will make poor decisions. We will try to influence or manipulate situations because we are trying to mitigate against loss. And there are some losses that we have to simply accept. If a loved one passes away, if there's a job loss, if a family member or they choose to estrange themselves from you. You can do a lot of dysfunctional things trying to fix that. But if you can grieve, if you can let go, then what arises out of that loss is the energy for the next thing. When we refuse to grieve, when we say, no, somehow I will fix this, I'm going to fight this, when there's nothing externally saying there's any opening for that, then we're forestalling the grief process, and it's costing us energy we need for the next phase of our lives. Once we can grieve, it opens our heart to allow things to flow and allows new opportunities and situations to come to us. So sometimes, for example, a person might leave a dysfunctional relationship, but they haven't grieved it. They are still hanging on to something. And I say sometimes it's not even that you're grieving the loss of the relationship, you're grieving the loss of what you had hoped it would be. If you can acknowledge, really acknowledge to yourself, whatever your situation, it's over, and feel all the feelings around that, you will be shocked on the other side of that how much energy and focus you now have for the next phase of your life. As long as you're ruminating on what somebody did to you 20, 30 years ago, you're still back there, or part of you is, and that energy doesn't get to come forward into the life you're creating now. Bear that in mind. All right. The Mariner's die is showing up under future, and it's a really pretty one. It's a gull. And the gull is the bird that flies in and screams at you while it steals fish fries or whatever it needs to survive. They're remarkably resilient birds, adaptable and very much themselves. So they are the face of being unabashedly yourself. I really like that. So this is very cool. The future shows you're going to get the resources you need, again, if you do the work, to unabashedly be yourself. And it's creating the movement for the inspiration for the next step. So remember here, under present, you got to get out of the closet and say, I'm going to start to show people the parts of myself I've been hiding. And there's a lot of power in that then fuels the future, where it's like, fine, you remember, the universe rewards you for doing the work. It does not if you refuse to do it. So you do the work to start to really show up in the world as you always were meant to be. The universe is going to give you the resources to unabashedly be yourself, where you just get to the point of going, why did I ever hold back? Why did I ever bite my tongue and not fully show up as me? So this is very exciting, and I always love with the die here how cohesive the readings are. Now we're skipping the Metamorphosis die because it's the one die that jumped off the mat, so we don't have to count that one in today. The Obstacles die is actually showing up in the core, and that one is the clock, yet to come. And it says, yet to come views time as the thing keeping you from things you want, as explicitly as a barrier it can be. Things are not yet in their right place, and so nothing is quite ready. It's not a notice that we need to take more time to think things through, though. It's, or necessarily that we need to do anything in particular at all. It's merely time itself as the barrier. We must wait, for things are not merely given at our whims. So remember how we get a warning here in the past. Don't take action based on your own patterns. And we're also being told by this card, January is a meditative month. This dice in the core influences the whole spread, and it's saying this is a month for internal work. Even looking at letting parts of yourself up. You can't just go, oh, this part of me I've never let up before. Come on up, go have at her. You need to work with that part for it to trust you enough that if it comes up out into the world, it's got your support, that you will, speak for it. If it can't speak for itself, you will support it. You will make sure it's kept safe. If you discover a part of yourself that goes, this situation you've always allowed doesn't feel safe to me, you've got to be willing to say, okay, what do I need to do to make it safe for that part of myself? What's the commitment I'm willing to make to this part of me that's coming to the surface for the first time to create a safe world for it? So you can see how much of this is internal work that's less about taking action out into the world this time. You're laying the foundation for that, though, for sure. And under the relationships die in the present, we have the alone die. And remember, alone doesn't mean lonely. So basically it's saying alone typically means an imposed isolation, kept alone by others who refuse to notice or speak with you in any depth, or alone by virtue of not being around others at all. So how I look at that for the present is this work of allowing aspects of yourself up is going to be a lot of deep internal work you do in your sanctuary, wherever that is, probably a space in your home. This isn't, hey, I'm going to go and do this work, people. Sometimes we get excited about something and we talk about it and we disperse the energy we needed in order to do it. And worse, we hope for validation, and if somebody says, well, that sounds like a dumb idea, that'll usually be enough to quash us taking any effort to do that thing we said we were going to do. Or we talk about it, we get all excited now because we burnt off that energy. We just relax and we don't do anything. So what I get from this is do the inner work, and sure, work with a coach like me who's going to help you do it, but just talking about it to get validation or to burn off that energy won't move you forward. Be discerning about who you communicate this work to, and remember, it's internal work. And I can teach you techniques I've developed for accessing those parts, working with them, parenting them so they start to feel lovable, start to feel they can trust you, they start to feel that you have the capacity and commitment to make it a safe place for them to come up and be part of your reality and start to do the work to integrate, or stay child parts that are happy to be child parts. There's nothing wrong with having a child part out in the world. You know, it's saying just don't be in a rush to put that out there when you don't even fully know what it is and you haven't started the integration process yet. Don't. A lot of people who want to do the spiritual work make the mistake of thinking talking about it is doing the work. I read this book, I did this thing. People will come to me and I'll start to tell them what I'm seeing, and sometimes I hear, I know. And it's a trap. They know intellectually. That's very different from I'm experiencing that. I'm doing the work that knowledge is talking about. So we want to be very careful on the spiritual journey that we don't make the mistake of projecting I'm a spiritual person doing the work and not actually doing the work. In fact, some of those spiritual people will never even tell you I'm a guru or I'm a teacher or a monk or whatever. They just do the work. And a lot of them don't even say much. That when they speak, it's with great purpose and intent. They're very mindful of what comes out of them because they're in that meditative state most of the time. They're checking in what's appropriate in this situation. And you know, people will get all excited about doing the spiritual work and, oh, I got to tell this friend of mine because they should be doing it too. Maybe not. Maybe it's not their path. When it's their time to do the spiritual work, they'll know and they'll find their types of teachings and practices. And maybe it'll be in this lifetime and maybe it'll be in the next one. Remember, we're eternal beings having many human experiences. So careful that we don't try to influence others, which can often, again, be a pitfall of we don't actually do the work ourselves. We just talk about it and we think that's the work. So our next die is the spring die, and it shows up as this little flock of birds. It's called Flight. And it says, when spring returns, so did the bird. Flight speaks to this return, the joyous song, the mating, the freedom. In a reading, Flight most often speaks to freedom, the ability to escape difficult situations or the need for either. So it's interesting, it shows up in the past, saying this is not a time for escape going forward. You might have done it in the past. You might have found that distraction was the way to cope with things, and you might have been absolutely right at that time. But now it's time to turn and face whatever we haven't been willing to look at internally if we're going to move forward. Our suits die is showing up under present. You can see it's the wand. And it speaks to the ability to fine-tune your will, focus, drive, and energy. So isn't it interesting that here, you know, it's sitting right next to the one that's about opening the closet and letting people see who you really are. It takes an incredible amount of energy to suppress parts of yourself, to fit in with somebody else's paradigm, to avoid conflict. Takes a lot of energy. So there's an incredible amount of energy available to us when we do this work, that will, that determination, that focus. When we're not distracted by what will they think, we can just go about our day doing what we know we're here to do. And there's a simplicity to that. A simplicity, if we're not attached to what other people think, that's usually when things go awry. All right, so our summer die, it's funny, we got the spring die here, and the summer die, just off camera, is right near it. And it is the sun, which is a time to live in joy and happiness. So I would say, because it is showing up there, it's not saying there won't be joy and happiness going forward. It's just saying, here's a mixture of things that were going on in the past. There were some difficult things, there was some happiness, some freedom. But this year, there's some really important work to do if by the end of the year, and again, I hearken back to my 1-year spread and what the last card said, we get to that point where we are able to say yes to things that feel right for us, no to the things that don't, without being overly attached to the reactions we get from people, and without feeling like we have to constantly explain ourselves or defend ourselves. So it's just saying, it's the time to do that work. And the more you do it, quite frankly, the happier you'll be. Because when we're less attached to anything, and I don't mean detached, which is I don't care, that's a block. Non-attached, like I'm having all these feelings, but I'm not trying to manipulate the world so I don't have to have these feelings. That's non-attachment. Like, wow, this really hurts, or wow, this feels amazing. And just, okay, I'm going to be in this moment having this experience, instead of, well, I want more of this moment, or I don't want that moment. That's the manipulation. We're just like being present in this moment for what is. That will ultimately lead to more ongoing contentment with life, even when things are hard, because I'm on my path. I'm doing what I'm here to do. And so it's all good, because it's all leading me to awakening. All right. Our last die here, second to last die, is the mirror. And it shows up as well under the past. And it's all about patience, thought, and reflection. Again, pretty clear. It's all falling into the same concept this month. The wounds die shows up under present. Here's a little wound on the hand. And it says that it suggests there will be pain. And this is the interesting thing. And I want to show this in a way that I think, quite frankly, is very positive. If we sort of look at this as a progression, the pain that leads to revealing aspects of yourself with the will and determination to do so, that unleashes this power that you discover by sitting with yourself. This right here feels like a scenario of, I'm up against something that is hurting me so much, I can't stay like this anymore. I have to do something about it. I have to show up. I have to speak up. I have to bring something in me forward, or I have to make some sort of an internal change, because this is no longer acceptable. This is no longer tolerable. Pain is an amazing teacher. It might teach us patience if it's something that we have to sit with. It can also be a motivator. What can I do differently now? What needs to change so that I can move forward? So here I see it as highly motivational in terms of helping us to bring these aspects up and all the power that they have to then move forward and use the resources to be inspired to make some really fundamental changes this year. How awesome is that? So thanks for joining me. And if you would like some personal support in your process, I'm here for you. And I'd be just delighted to help you on your journey to who you were always meant to be. I know you've already done a lot of work. Most people who've come to see me have, to take some of these layers off. So let's dig deeper. Let's keep going. I'm here for you. Take care, everybody. I'll see you next time.